Okay, I think that's about everyone. I think we'll start. I'll start with, okay, if you guys can turn on your cameras, please turn them on. And I'll start with like a quick self-introduction. So my name is Nicole, and some of my hobbies are like reading, uh, like drawing, and probably most of all like playing piano. I started playing piano when I was 5, and I also have a lot of experience with theory and playing piano itself. So I hope you guys will enjoy this class. I'll start with just like, oh, if your camera doesn't work, it's also fine if you don't turn it on. I'm just like, if you can turn it on, please turn it off. I'll start with like, if you guys can do a quick self-introduction as well. Just your name, your grade. Oh, by the way, I'm in grade 10. Your grade, if you have any like previous experience with music, and also like some of your hobbies. Does anyone want to start? If not, I'll just like start. Yeah, you can turn on your mic or just like type it into the chat, I guess. Okay, nice. I'm seeing some messages in the chat. Does anyone else have want to introduce themselves? Okay, nice. I think that's about everyone. If you guys have any questions like during the class, then just like type them into the chat and I'll try to like answer any questions. And also like you can also just like unmute mute your mic and like say the question if you want. Okay, then I'll just start with the first lesson then. This will be like really introductory, so like just a preview of what we'll learn and some of the basics. Let me try and share my screen. Oh, okay, someone else just joined. If you just want to start with a quick self-introduction, you can unmute your mic or like type it into the chat. And we'll get started soon. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Then I'll get started. Once again, if you guys have questions, you can just unmute your mic, type it into the chat. Okay. We'll be learning some really like introductory key signatures, scale degrees, triads, intervals. I know this looks like a lot, but we'll just be like going over it very briefly. Okay, so first of all, key signatures. For level 4, you just have to know up to 3 sharps and 3 flats. So like the most basic ones are C major and A minor. I'm sure since you guys all seem to have backgrounds in like instruments, you guys should all know these. So starting off, you guys should know like basic major and minor scales, and C major and like A minor are relative major and minor. And then if we have 1 sharp going up, that would just be a fifth away. So like C major to G major is a 1 sharp difference. And then G major to D major is another sharp difference. And if you just continue going up in fifths, you'll get more and more sharps. And if you go down a fifth, so like from C major to F major, that would be like adding 1 more flat. So similar to like how you would add the sharps, if you go down a fifth, you get another flat. Okay. So I'll just ask you guys to like just say how many sharps or flats are in each of these scales. You can type it into the chat. Oh, okay. So I'll just, for these scales you see on the board, please just like type how many sharps or flats are in them, and you can just type it into the chat. Or you can unmute your mic and like say. So just like you could start with like typing like I know like 1 sharp, no sharps, flats, and like if you guys have trouble with this, I can also like go over it again. But like this is just like recognizing like simple scales and just try and see how many sharps and flats are in them. Okay, I see Reina has responded. That is correct. Do any other of you guys have, I guess, like since. Okay, do you guys have any questions? If you don't understand, I can always go over it again. Otherwise, we'll start like moving on to the next little topic. Okay, since only 1 person responded, I'll guess I'll go over this again. So like, oh, oops. How do I go back? Okay, so do you guys all know like, I guess like key signatures in general? Like how much do you know about it? Like have you played scales and are you familiar like with all of the different scales? Just like you can like type like yes into the chat. Okay, very good. Then as long as you guys are familiar with recognizing like up to 3 sharps and 3 flats, then you'll be able to like do all of this other stuff like pretty well. Okay, we'll move on to scale degrees. So this is like super simple. All you have to know is that like the first note in a scale is the tonic. And then if you move up from that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 4 is the subdominant. The fifth note is the dominant. And as you near like the tonic again, right, one below that is the leading tone. So all you have to know is the tonic, the subdominant, dominant, and leading tone, because these are like the most like important like notes in the scale. And these are also what you will be using most often. So as long as you know like 1 is tonic, 4 is subdominant, 5 is dominant, and 7 is leading tone, then this is like pretty much all good. Okay, next is triads. I'm sure you've all seen triads. Triads are just like 3 notes together. That's a triad basically. And basically we have 2 ways to write notation to show triads. So the first way is functional chord symbols. So these are usually below the staff. And the second way is root quality chord symbols, and these are above the staff. So you won't have to know how to write these specifically. I'll just show you some examples of how they're written. So the first one is functional chord symbols. And as you can see in the bottom, they're written 1, 5, 1. So these are all in Roman numerals. So I is just 1, 5 is V, and 4 is IV. So these will be written below the staff. And basically, since this is in like B flat major, I'm pretty sure. So then like you can see like in the bass, like B flat is the tonic, so it's written I. And from that, oh, the second note, you can see it actually has a 4-2 above it. Usually that would be written like beside it like this. Can you guys see what I'm writing? Okay. Okay, so usually like that 4-2, the numbers on it would be written beside the chord. So like these 6 would also be written like here. So basically all that means is like what position the chord is in, or like what, I guess, like order. So for this one, you might say like, oh, but like dominant from B is F. The 4-2 basically just tells us that it's not in root position. So instead it's F, A, C in the top, and then E flat is in the bass. So the 4-2 tells us that the E flat is in the bass. And the other positions would be like 7 is root position for this. And then you would have 6-5, and also like 6-5-4-3. And then 4-2 is the final position. So this is actually not for triads. This is actually another chord called a 7th chord. So this is like more advanced stuff. You don't need to know it too well. I'm just like giving you extra information. And then for this one, this is the tonic, and it's in first inversion position. So all that means is like this is similar. This is a triad, so this would be root position. And then the second, like first inversion would be with D in the bottom. And then third inversion is 6-4. So all that means is which note is in the bass. So in this one, since it's I6, D is in the bass, which is the second note in the triad. So B flat, D, F. For the first one, it would be B flat in the bass. For first inversion, it's D in the bass. And for second inversion, it's F in the bass. So that's just a brief introduction to functional chord symbols. You won't need to know how to write them. As long as you can recognize them, that's all good. Okay, how do I clear this? Mm. Oh, so you don't usually see them in RCM books. So this is actually because like in the like lower levels, like usually like for actually until like level 8, I think you won't see too many like functional chord symbols. Like not until like you go into like really advanced levels, you start to use like functional chord symbols a lot. So this is like I'm just basically like teaching you more information than is actually in the level 4. As long as you can like recognize like these Roman numerals below the staff, then basically if you know those are functional chord symbols, then that's all you need to know. Okay, I'll move on to does it affect the playing? Okay, so basically these chord symbols are all just ways to write the chords. So when you play like different like pieces, I guess, you would usually just like see the notes without the functional chord symbols. And then these symbols are just like when you're trying to analyze the music, you can just like write them there to like start to know like what chord this is in reference to the scale. So it's just a way to analyze and like make it more clear. Okay, if you guys are good on functional chord symbols, I'll move on to, yeah, it's also a way to like show cadences as well, which is like in the end of this phrase here, we have a cadence. Okay, I'll move on to root quality chord symbols. So these are written above a staff. So this would just be like a letter above the staff to show what chord it is. It's just another way to show like basically what chord it is in a song. So this, how you show it is with a capital letter and nothing after it if it's a major triad. And then if it's a minor triad, you would show the capital letter followed by a lowercase m. So in this case, this like C, if you wrote it above something, then it would just be like meaning that something below it is a C major triad. And then for the A minor, basically it just means that you would have like an A minor triad below it. So actually, to make this more clear, I'll like write root quality chord symbols for the last slide. Okay, so here, like this is in B flat major, and I'll write the root quality chord symbols above. So for the first one, it would just be B flat. And then the second one, since it's a seventh chord, you would actually write a 7 after it. So like F7 slash E flat. So all the slash means is what position it is in. You won't have to know this like too detailed as well. As long as you can like recognize that these letters above the staff are root quality chord symbols, then you're good. This is just like a good way to remember it is functional chord symbols are like the Roman numerals. Root quality chord symbols have the root, so basically like the letter, and then the quality of it, so like minor, major, seventh chord after it. Okay. And then like at the end here, this would also be like B flat. And then like this F. Well, that's like, that's too complicated. Wait, let me see. So like this would be an E flat triad. So like E flat, G, B flat. And then since the bottom note is G, we would write slash G. How many levels are there in total for RCM theory? I think there's like, I guess like 11 if you count ARCT. And like, so basically, if you want to like do like level 10 exams later on to like for requirements for like the later on, like, what's it called? Because like later on in piano, I think when you do like the practical exams, you also have to have like a theory prerequisite. So basically, like you have to take the theory exam along with the like normal piano exam. Okay. If that is clear, then I will move on to the next stuff. So that was like a lot of like extra info from me talking about like triads. Okay. Next, we have intervals. So these are like more like the more of the course material, like stuff you will have to know in level 4. So this is like there are basically different qualities of intervals. You have perfect, major, and minor. So basically how you would know if it's perfect, usually if it's like with itself, so like one apart or like no space between. That would be perfect. Also, like fourth and fifth are perfect, and then like perfect eighth. So these are the perfect intervals. Major intervals would be like, let me see here. So major intervals would be like the second, the third, and let's see, sixth and seventh. So this scale actually doesn't have minor intervals because this one is like a major scale. But if you had like I'll just give an example. So like instead of maybe like C and E for like this third one here, if you wanted to make it minor, you can make the E an E flat, and that would be minor third. Okay. So basically an easy way to tell if it's major or minor is first like you count the spaces between. See like C, D, E, that would be 3 spaces. And then after that, you can just like compare it with, I guess, like scales. So like in the major scale, you would be like, oh, it's C, D, and then E natural. So that would be like a major interval. And then to make it a minor interval, it would have to be like part of the minor scale. So like C, D, E flat. So that's like a pretty simple way to tell if it's a major or minor interval. And also, if you like play them on your instrument, you can also kind of like tell from the sound. So like major intervals usually will sound like more like happy, and then the minor intervals will sound more sad. So that's also like kind of part of the, what's it called? Major and minor intervals. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on intervals? Okay, if not, then I'll move right into some practice questions. Let me just find my practice questions real quick. For real, major is happy and minor is sad. Best way to tell. Okay, I'll just like stop sharing real quick and pull out my practice questions. Mm, Okay, let me try to screen share again. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Oh, can we do a booklet after the end of the class? So I actually don't have a booklet prepared yet, but if you guys want to do like booklets for future classes, I can make them if you want. Okay. I will make them for next class then. And also we'll have like a few like terms and vocabulary stuff for like, I guess like a bit of homework. So just like 5 to 10 like terms that are just like part of like the RCM like requirement thingy. And if you guys like want a booklet on that at the beginning of the next class or the end of next class, then I can make one for next week. Okay, then we'll start on the interval stuff. Yes, this is the first class. Okay, so basically this is just asking you to identify each interval. If you guys need help, just like ask questions. And if you guys just can do like the first row here, you can type it out into the chat. So like this row here, just type it like, I don't know, like the interval, like perfect something. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, and also try and like do direct message just so like you don't give the answers to other people. And I'll just like type back to you like correct or like which one is wrong. What's the um, okay, when if you guys are like done the first row, if you're speedy, you can also just like start the second row. Okay, I'm getting a lot of questions, so I'll just like clarify this again. So let me just go back here. Oh, and if any of you guys are like working still, then you can like screenshot the questions if you guys like know how to do it. Let me just go back. So if you guys have like no questions at all and you're fine with like just doing the questions, then make sure to screenshot them. Okay, and now I'll go over here. So basically, this question is asking you for the size and the quality. So all that means is like, for example, for this first one, I'll just give away the answer. So like basically how to identify the quality, you would just count like first, you can actually find the size first because I think that's actually easier. So you would count like G, A, B flat. So this would be a size of 3. And then you can see if it's major or minor. So you can think about this like G and B first. It's like G, A, B. So that would be like, I guess, like happy. It's part of the major scale. So if it were just like a B natural, that would be a major third. But since it's a B flat, that's lower. Flat is lower than natural. So that means that it must be a minor third. Okay. If you guys are still having trouble with that, I can go into more detail. We can also do some like easier questions if you guys have trouble with that. I think there's a page above with like, okay, so I'll go to this page. So this first question is just asking for a half step. So basically a half step is like if you are counting on the piano, so like B, too many messages. Okay, so for a half step above each note. This is basically like an easier question than the intervals from before. So this would be like just like half a step above. So like the first note on a keyboard above. So that would be like here if it's G, then half step above, you could write it as, oh, different letter name, sorry. So that would be A is the first letter above that. And then since you need just half above it, you would write a flat here. So then if you like look at, imagine that on the piano, like G, and then A flat would be like the black key right next to it. Okay, I'll just like ask everyone, if you guys like don't understand, do you want to do like the half step questions or the interval questions? Okay, I'm seeing like a few interval. What about everyone else? Just type like interval or like half step into the chat. Or I can do like a few like example questions, I guess. Okay. If you guys are fine with it, I'll do some like, no, the note is moving. I'll do some example like interval questions then. I'll just do like the first row for you guys to see. Oh my god, I can't. Okay. So for this first row, I'll go through it with you guys. So I went through the first one. So this one is just G, A, B flat. Once again, you count. So like G is the first note, A, 2, B flat, 3. So this is 3 notes. And then you can compare. So like G, A, B. So like B is part of the major scale. If you like, and then since B flat is lower, that would be a minor quality. So you would just write like on my M, minor 3 here. And then for the second interval, this would just be D to D and E here. So if you count that, D would be 1, and then E would be 2. So counting, this would be D, E. So you know this is a 2. And now you have to figure out if it's like minor or major. So part of like the major scale is D, E, F sharp. And since E is part of the major scale, you would just write major second here. Yeah. I'll just go over the third example. So this is from F to C. If you count, that would be F, G, A, B, C. So that would be 5. It's like F, G, A, B, C, 5. And then since there's no like flats or anything, and this is part of the major scale, it's like F, G, A, B, C. And that would be a perfect actually. So this is not a major, and the reason is because 1, 4, 5, and 8 are always perfect. So can you guys try this fourth one and the fifth one? Okay, what I'm seeing is like some of you guys like get it like super well, and like some of you guys are not very not responding. But I need to make this chat bigger. I cannot see. Okay. Are you guys good with intervals or do you need more practice? If you need help, just say like, I need help. And also, we'll like go over this in more detail in like a unit later on. I'm just like going over this like really fast for now. We'll go over this again later on in another class, just like a whole class dedicated to this. So don't worry if you don't get it now. I'm just like going fast for this class, just so you get an idea of like everything we'll learn in this like class series. And basically, once you guys like have a basic idea of that, we'll go like more step by step and slower in like future classes. So this is just like a super like brief introduction of everything and I'm like going over it super fast. Okay. So moving on from intervals, if you guys don't know how to identify them yet or write them yet, that's completely fine. We'll go over them like in a later class as well. Okay. So next we're going to move on to note values. So this is basically just like if you know how long a whole note is for, a half note, quarter note, eighth note, and 16th note is, then that's pretty much all you need to know. So a whole note would be like for whole 4 beats in 4/4 time. So I'm just gonna assume like this is all like in 4/4 time. Okay. So if this is all in 4/4 time, a whole note would be 4 beats. I'll just write a 4 next to this. And a half note is basically just essentially like half of the whole note. So each of these would be 2 beats. And then if we split that even more, a quarter note would be 1 beat. An eighth note would be half of a beat. And then a 16th note would be a fourth of a beat. So like, for example, if you had like a bar here, just assume there's like lines between, a whole note would take up the whole bar. For half notes, you would need 2 to take up the whole bar. Quarter notes, you would need 4. Ignore my ugly drawings. Eighth note, you would need 8, as seen from the name eighth. So just pretend I drew like 8 of these. And then for 16th note, you would just need 16. Okay, so that's like the basic breakdown. This should be like pretty straightforward if you guys play instruments already, like just whole notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16 notes. Oh, and half notes. Okay, we'll move on from that. Is there like an, okay, there's an easy way to clear. Okay. So now we have rest values. So this is like very similar to like the note values, except they're just like different symbols. So a whole rest is the same as a whole note. A half rest is the same as a half rest. Quarter rest just looks like that. Better like how I draw them, since I'm lazy, is just like that. And then like eighth rest, you would just do that. And then like an easy way to remember the whole rest and half rest is just like how I think of this is like if this were like I know you're walking along this like line here and then you fall into this, that would be like a hole. So whole rest. Ha 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 ha. And then half rest is just like the opposite. So like going upwards, so kind of like a hat, half and hat, ha ha ha. And then like quarter rest, eighth rest, and 16th rest. So these are all like really similar to the note values. They're all like basically like the same names as well, whole rest and whole note. half rest and half note, quarter rest and quarter note, eighth rest and eighth note, and 16th rest and eighth note. Okay. Okay, so after rest values, let me just clear these drawings. Okay, so after rest values, another like idea that should be like something that you guys can understand as well is dotted notes. So basically this is just like a little dot after the note. So basically all it does is add on half of the note's value. So if you had like a whole note and then you add a little dot after it, all that means is that you add half of that note's value. So for, oh my God. Okay, so for a whole note, if you had a dot after it, all that means is, so like a whole note originally is like 4 beats. If you add a dot after that just means +2, half of the note's value. So then a whole note with a dot, that would just be like 6 beats. Probably like the more common one you guys would see is like this, a half note with a dot and a quarter note with a dot. And that just means like half note 2 beats plus half of its value 1 beat, 3 beats. And then like a quarter note 1 beat plus half of its value, it would be 1.5 beats. And then like if you had an eighth note with a dot after it, that would be an eighth note. So half of a beat plus a 16th note, that would be like 3/4 of a beat. So like I'll just write like 3/4. And you could like even have this for like a 16th note, but then you would go into like 30-second notes. So if you had a 16th note with a dot after it, that just means you have a 16th note plus a 30-second note, which just is like looks the same, but it has 3 lines like that. And then you would get like, I don't not want to do math. So that's like a quarter plus an eighth of a beat. Okay, I do not want to do that. Just so you know. Okay, so basically all you need to know, a dot just means add on half of the note's value. Okay. If you guys are clear with that, then I'll move on. Okay, so music terms and signs. So this is what I was like talking about, where if you guys want, we can have like a booklet next week. So basically, there will be 10 terms that you need to know. And they're like pretty straightforward. If you play piano or like any other instrument, you should like have seen them sometimes, like notated like or written like in your music. So I actually have like a file of this. I think I'll send it into the chat. Okay, let me see. Can I attach files? Okay, so like for all of you guys who are confused about intervals, do not worry. We will go over them like in a lot more detail in future classes. Like, and so like basically, as long as you basically know that intervals exist and like you have sizes and like qualities of it, then we will like you're good for now. We will learn more about them in the future, so don't worry at all. Let me just find the file of the terms. So terms, there's like 10 of them. Let me see if I can. find this. Oh, and class is almost ending, so after you guys like have the file, you guys are free to leave. And also just like one last question. Do you guys want to like learn like split learning the terms into like 2 weeks and then we could have like the booklet after 2 weeks? Or do you want to just have like just like a quiz of like all of the terms next week? No, we can't find the file. Oh, here it is. Can I drag it over? No, I can't. Yeah. Let's see. Help me. I do not use Zoom usually. Okay, let me check. Okay, some people are saying like 2 weeks, some people are saying like 1 week, so like next week. So basically, next week I'll ask you guys again. So if you guys think like you're already very familiar with all the terms, then I'll just like have you guys like, oh my God, my computer. Oh, it's so hard to attach files in the chat. Wait a second. Okay, a quiz is just a booklet. Do not stress. Am I still screen sharing? Oh, well, at least you can see how much I'm struggling. No. How do I attach the file? Ah, your computer. Why doesn't it work? Okay, so like apparently I am failing to attach the file. So I think I'll just like, let me see if I can find it here. Terms. Okay, so this is like, yeah, I'll just copy the link. That's much smarter. Why am I trying to attach the file? I'll make it public. Okay, I'll just like paste the link into the chat and then you guys can like save it. Okay. Yeah. Where did Zoom go? Huh. I'm so confused. Um, okay. So basically, yeah, I'm just like showing you guys like this document with like all the terms. So like the reason why I'm sending you the link is so like basically like you can like also see it at like other times other than out of class. So this is just like all of the terms you need to know. It's like 10 in total. And basically those are the symbols for like the stuff. And there's also, okay, I actually also have a link for the full PDF with all the terms. So this is just like, so like in the back of the level 4 book, there's like 2 pages like full of terms, like, if you can see it. So I do not want to make you suffer and learn all of the terms that you probably already know. I just like put the 10 terms that are like new to the level. So that's like pretty much all you need to know, to be honest, because like all of these are like pretty straightforward if you like already like play instruments. So yeah, breathmark does not exist in piano, but for some reason RCM wants you to learn it anyways. So yeah, you still have to learn it. Okay, so like as long as you know what these 10 terms mean, then like next week we'll have like a booklet on it that exists in other instruments, which is what matters. So just these 10 terms. So like, are you guys still like fine with like next week we have the booklet just so I can like see about like how much you remember. Okay, so like next week we'll have a booklet on this. Just like save the link, make sure you have it so that you can like review them. And that's all for this class. Where did my Zoom go? What the? Okay, so that's all. You guys are free to leave. Remember to review your terms. For the other stuff, it's basically, I just like summarized about like some of the stuff that we'll be learning in level 4 theory. You don't have to like, I know a lot of you guys are like confused about the intervals. Don't worry, we'll cover it in a future class. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Bye.
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 And do you have any questions?